mom lived there for 6 years. I worked 5 years in housing coalition. I worked for like 7 years. But now I'm really appreciative of it. I think that now you got other people to talk to.
No, thank you.
But now being out and actually very helpful. With her email more recently. You guys put in some labor protection.
It actually shows that
very appreciative. Checking you later.
Really what left me. My first name is Brian.
That's all right. Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Local Kentucky.
I look differently every day. So, I love your shirt. Thank you. We went green today.
Thank you. I didn't actually have nobody to call, but I didn't get called. So, we actually get more housing for our people. We wouldn't be criminalizing our people.
I'm Jennifer.
Housing is human.
I'm Elsie Reckles. Thank you so much. Hi, how are you guys?
All right. It's a great turnout.
Is it? Okay, good.
Hi, great and with 100%.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. Nice to meet you. I'm from the Center for Popular Democracy from New York.
Richard?
Yeah, to make parents right. Yes. Can y'all take a selfie with some cold?
Oh, yeah. No.
You need a
Oh,
nonsense is good.
not me. I'm not. You are not.
Yeah, let's do it. I like it.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thank you. Good stuff.
Nice job.
Put this up on
4 months in.
I was saying,
It is an amazing thing.
I'm like, that's great. This is Erin Jackson Hill, the executive director of Alaska Civic Stand, all the way from Alaska.
That's an important job.
Yeah, all of you did. Wow.
Somebody
How cool is that?
and they could have been involved. Oh, you. But it's not that I'm I mean, we have outside. We have two different.
Great.
And from here, it's not solid.
What's up, everyone? Congressman Bowman. God, this is great.
Hi, guys. Hey, Peter.
Anybody know this guy?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Bernie. My name is Colin. Can I get a selfie with you?
What's up? What's right around with that? Hey, we have a mayor.
Okay.
Hey, how are you?
Gentleman in green, Baltimore City Housing Authority. President.
How are you? God,
All right.
you attract meteor. I got to say thanks to you.
How are you doing?
Very good to see you.
Good to see you. All right, we ready to rumble?
Somewhere got both of them.
Ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. We'll pull this up. Oh, do we have Jamaal? Do we have Delia here? Are we waiting on Delia?
I haven't seen Delia yet.
Okay. All right. No worries. Okay, we ready? All right.
Oh, I don't know about that. No, you
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
How's everybody doing today?
All right,
It is a beautiful, sunny day in March.
cold.
And it's a little cold, a little chilly, but we are here because we are reintroducing the Green New Deal for public housing today. I want to thank everybody who's out here today. First and foremost, I have to give a shout out to our New York 14 NYCHA residents who have bussed down from Queens and the Bronx. I want to give them a big round of applause. Our overall NYCHA organizers that are here, New York City Public Housing, our general public housing organizers that are here, because they right here are why we are here today. The power of their advocacy and the importance and dignity of their lives and all of our lives is why we are here today. Because when they stand up and advocate for increased investments in public housing, they're standing up for all of us and this insane housing market that we are dealing with today. Every single one of us, most of us, are contending with the fact that we can barely afford housing, whether it's high rents, whether it's mortgages, whether it's inaccessibility to public housing and social housing stock as well. We cannot access it, and the lack of public housing inventory and investment in that is a big reason why. I want to thank Senator Sanders for being here with us today as our Senate co-lead. I'm very excited to introduce a new co-lead, Representative Delia Ramirez. Yeah. We're adding Chicago to the mix. The city with the third largest public housing stock in the United States. So we're partnering up from New York to Chicago to Puerto Rico, which has a very large public housing stock as well, to make sure that we not just invest in the capital backlog that public housing needs, but that we also create tons of good union jobs in overhauling our public housing stock and investing in the social infrastructure of our public housing as well. On that note, I want to thank AFSCME as a union who has endorsed the Green New Deal for public housing. Diane Yentel, the president of the National Low Income Housing Coalition as well. This is what movement building looks like. When we first introduced the Green New Deal for public housing, a lot of it was constructed and written in partnership with residents of public housing. It includes things like expansion of Section 3, which we are talking about here in our housing authority. See, they know because they wrote it. They know because they wrote it, which means that when we talk about creating good union jobs in order to invest in NYCHA and public housing across the country, in order to retrofit our public housing stock so it can be based on renewable energy sources produced on site, so that kids don't have to be exposed to increased asthma risk, so that people can be able to live in healthy housing. But when we create those jobs in doing that, those jobs are going to be good, they're going to be union, and NYCHA and public housing residents are going to have first at-bat to get those jobs. This is what self-sustaining community looks like. I want people to imagine a different world. We do not have to accept this. We do not have to accept this world that we are living in now. We can imagine and we can achieve something new. Imagine waking up in your apartment. It's beautiful. It's affordable. You can raise a family in it. And you walk outside and there's a beautiful playground. And there's kids already playing in that playground. And your children go out there and they are connected to a community. And you turn around the corner and in that building there's a community center where seniors are preparing, activities and that they're getting ready to connect with one another. And we walk out and there's a barbecue on a Saturday and your school is good and the energy that powers your home isn't filling up your lungs. That you don't have to worry if the paint on the walls is exposing your kid to lead. The water that you drink is fresh and crisp. And all of this can be done without bankrupting ourselves. We have to return to an era of rebuilding public housing in the United States. And we have to reject the idea that it's broken policy. What's broken policy is the Faircloth Amendment, which has banned the construction of public housing for decades. That's broken policy. What's broken policy is refusing to invest in our public housing stock for decades. That's broken policy. What's broken policy is only building housing stock that's designed for the wealthy and not for working and middle class people. And what's broken policy is relying solely on the market and solely on billionaires in order to produce and extort everyday people of every dime that we have in charging the highest rent possible. A different world is not only possible, a different world is arriving today.
That's
Today. The Green New Deal for public housing would immediately replenish the multi-billion-dollar backlog for public housing repairs. It would repeal the Fair Cloth Amendment. It would invest up to $234 billion over 10 years to preserve, upgrade, and expand our public housing stock. It would bring public housing down to zero carbon emissions while creating 280,000 jobs in America.
Yeah.
It would end the era of government neglect, demolition, and privatization of our public housing stock. This bill also addresses unsustainable rent prices. In the Bronx alone, average rent prices grew by over 7% to an average of $2,391 just last year. But public housing isn't tied to the market. So by preserving and expanding it, we can guarantee it to be affordable. It's the only housing stock that we can guarantee to be the most affordable. But most importantly, this bill would improve living conditions for the nearly 1 in 20 Americans who live in public housing. 1 in 20. Of the over 300,000 public housing residents living in New York alone, about 73 come from marginalized backgrounds, and 57% are elderly or disabled. They matter. Our seniors matter. Our elders matter. Our disabled brothers and sisters matter. And we are sick and tired of having them priced out of our communities and treated as disposable parts of society. They are the most essential parts of our society. And with that, I just want to thank so many of our partners that are here today, and I want to hand it off to our Senate co-lead, Senator Bernie Sanders.
I want to thank Alexandria for her leadership on this enormously important issue and reiterate the point that she made. Change is not going to take place from there on down. Change is going to take place from the grassroots on up. And we need to mobilize millions of people to demand that every American has decent and affordable housing, and at the same time, we address the existential crisis of climate change. And that is what this legislation does. So what we're talking about here is an understanding that if we do not get a handle on the crisis of climate change, the planet that we are leaving our kids and grandchildren will become increasingly uninhabitable. We are not going to allow that to happen. And the second point we're going to make, when I was a kid, growing up in a far and distant land of Brooklyn, I know it's not your territory, we didn't live in public housing, but we lived in rent-controlled apartments, right, which was a solid source of housing in New York City at that point. $75 a month is what we paid. But what we have got to do now in the midst of a massive housing crisis in the state of Vermont, in New York, in California, not only homelessness, but millions of people who are paying 50% or more of their limited income from housing, we are saying enough is enough. Affordable housing is a human right. And what we're also saying is not only do we need jobs in America, we need jobs in America that pay people a living wage. So the good news, and what Alexandria has done, what everybody here has done, what we have done together is put together a piece of legislation that addresses some of the major crises in America. We're going to stand up and transform our energy system and create sustainable housing not based on fossil fuel. We are going to provide decent, quality, affordable housing for millions of Americans. And at the same time, we're going to create good-paying union jobs. That is a win-win-win situation. Let's pass this legislation. Thank you all very much.
Next up, we have our House co-lead, freshman coming out swinging, Representative Delia Ramirez. Thank you.
Chi-Town is in the house. Listen, as I'm like right next to New York here, right? I gotta be careful. I'm alone here right now. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a gorgeous, sunny, beautiful day to be with all of you. As we all know, what we've been chanting, what we've been hashtagging, and what we've been working on, making housing a human right. I get to represent Illinois' 3rd Congressional District. The district, half of it is in the city of Chicago, and the rest of it is in the northwestern suburbs. A district that, like many districts in our nation, are feeling the impact and lack of affordable housing and the urgent climate crisis. The reality is that you and I both know that before the pandemic, the rent was too damn high, and it was nearly impossible for most of our communities to ever purchase a home. What you have seen over the last few years is rent continuing to increase 20%, 20%, 20%. What we haven't seen increase is wages.
That's right.
That's right.
Just in Illinois, there's a staggering shortage of over 293,000 affordable homes. 10,431 people are experiencing street and shelter homelessness at any given day. In my district, more than 20,000 Latinos have been displaced since 2000. Families spending 50, 75% of their income of rent and utilities. Many of them doubled up and tripled up, and you know that according to our HUD definition, that doesn't technically mean homelessness by the number we see. So we know that the number of people at risk of homelessness, experiencing homelessness, is so much higher. Folks, the time for bold policy and transformative investment, as you heard from my colleague, I love to say, from New York City, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that investment day is today.
Yes.
We need action to confront the systemic and environmental challenges displacing our families and threatening our communities. As someone who believes to my core that safe, stable, sustainable, resilient, affordable housing is a human right, I am excited to be here today, standing by the side of committed activists and leaders.
Yeah!
You have been saying and doing this work. Let's say it again.
Housing is a human right.
Housing, right. That's right. That's right. So as she said that, I was standing there and thinking, I grew up as a little girl going to different protests and chanting around affordable housing. And, you know, we would go to places and you know, we'd start our chant by saying, our protests and our chants, what do we want? And then the people would respond, affordable housing. When do you want it?
Now.
What do you want?
Affordable housing.
When do you want it?
Now.
So why I share that with you is that I've been working on affordable housing for a very long time, but I would be at other protests fighting for wages. I would fighting for immigration reform. And when people would say, what do you want? They would say immigration reform. I'd say affordable housing. It was so instilled, it is so instilled in me, right? That I cannot hear the question, what do you want? I mean, even at home, I was like, affordable housing, and I want it now. We know that we have been working for this for a very long time, and it is why the Green New Deal for Public Housing Act of 2024 is here. It's transformative investment in housing, particularly public housing that goes above and beyond what we've seen before. It's an investment in clean energy economy that increases energy efficiency, it lowers costs for families, and it creates the good paying job opportunities we deserve. It's an investment in clean, healthy future for generations to come with thriving communities and resilient cities. I want to end by saying to every young advocate here, and we're all young in our heart. Thank you. All of them. No, not you. I was looking at him. I was looking at him. I want to say thank you. You know exactly what's at stake in this moment. You know exactly what we're experiencing every single day. And there are days that in this place, it may feel like we're not moving forward. But I want to say to you, thank you, because you remind us that we cannot afford to give up. That this crisis is real, but you have chosen hope. You have chosen action. You have chosen to fight for our future and for each other. So to our activists, to our organizers, to our leaders, to our cities, thank you. Now let's get this bill passed.
Yes.
I mean, now you know why she's the co-lead on this, right? She's just Delia's such an incredible champion on this. And I think it's important to send one message before we introduce our next speaker. Housing policy, and I want to send this message very clearly, not just to all of Congress, but including to the leadership of the Democratic Party. Any housing platform that does not include public housing is not good enough.
That's right. That's right.
Is not good enough. Not good enough. And so there's no convenient forgetting here. Unless public housing is explicitly addressed, we do not have a housing plan. Not as a platform, not as a party. There's a lot of different things to address. Social housing, mortgages, interest rates, but any true housing policy must include a commitment to public housing, point blank, period. That's right. With that, I'd love to introduce Representative Jamaal Bowman.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, for inviting me. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you to the activists. This is what policy making is supposed to look like, y'all. It's not just about us coming here as individual representatives, elected officials, doing this work on our own. We have to do this work in conjunction, in collaboration, and in alignment with people who have been doing this work their entire lives. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your organizing, for your love, and for your leadership. Housing is a human right. Fight, fight, fight. Housing is a human right. Fight, fight, fight. The rent is too damn high, y'all. It's been too damn high for decades. I lived in public housing. I lived and was raised in public housing and rent-controlled apartments. The minute a state law changed, my mother had to move out and lose her 2-bedroom apartment and moved into a studio apartment in recently gentrified South Bronx, New York. And that is the story of millions of people across the country. And my mother was lucky enough to be a union worker for the post office for 33 years. So she had a good enough pension to keep her in that studio apartment. But how many people aren't so lucky and aren't so fortunate and have been left behind by our elected officials for far too long? Too many. And that's why we have this unhoused crisis all over this country. It is plantation capitalism to have someone paying 40, 50, 60% of their salary towards rent. That is plantation capitalism. Rent should be capped at 20% of someone's salary. That's where we need to take it. And as we rebuild our cities and as we rebuild our country to ensure that every single person has a home, we need to invest and pass the Green New Deal for public housing.
Absolutely.
It deals with the issue of unemployment and underemployment. It deals with the issue of the climate catastrophe that we are living in, and it deals with the issue of lack of affordable housing in our country. As the senator said, win, win, win. But I also want to plug, we must also pass the Green New Deal for public schools. Because the Green New Deal for public schools, working in conjunction with the Green New Deal for public housing, is a form of reparation for our historically marginalized communities. And as someone who has worked in public education for 20 years before running for Congress, housing, stable, affordable, safe, clean housing impacts how our kids learn in our public schools.
Take them to school.
Housing is health care. Housing is about self-esteem and self-worth and love and care for your community. When you feel that way, going to school, you're going to perform better in school. So Congress needs to get this done.
That's right.
And organizers, please, I know you already do this, but I'm shouting out the millions of people who haven't been activated yet across the country. Organize in your local communities.
That's right.
Organize at the city level, county level, state level to move legislation and money to invest in green housing. So thank you so much, my sister. It's an honor to work with you every day in this interesting place. And thank you to all the organizers for your love and care for our communities. Thank you all so much.
Incredible, incredible. Sorry, I don't know whose mic this is, but I'm trying to do my best to fix it. Okay. All right. Next up, I'd like to introduce Senator Peter Welch.
Yes!
Thank you.
We miss him in the house. We miss him in the house.
Well, I got to tell you, Eddie Markey and I are realizing all the fun you're having over here. You got room for us to come back, Jamaal? It's pretty good. You know, one of the themes that we've been hearing is housing is about community. You know, in Vermont, we have the second highest homeless population. Wow. Really, per capita. Unbelievable. And you know, I think back, Jamaal, you told your story. When I first went to Vermont, I got out of law school. I rented an apartment on the 3rd floor of a tenement for $115 a month. And it stayed that way. My first job, I was making $9,000 a month. But you know, a week. No, a year. Those are the good. Yeah. Well, you know, actually, there's a funny story because I got out of law school and I got a job offer on Wall Street and I got a job offer over here on K Street. And I would have been making good money. I ended up on Bridge Street in White River Junction, and it was great. But the point is, it was possible to make a choice and to get a modest place to begin. But we don't mind modest. We want opportunity where it's step by step. You're moving ahead, not falling behind, no matter how hard you work, right? Absolutely. That's right. So no one's asking for anything, but we just don't want to have a crushing boulder on our shoulder as we're trying to make our way and build and make our own contribution in the community. And you know, what happens so often is that when it becomes impossible to afford just basic shelter, an apartment or a house, the blame starts getting focused on the people who can't afford it.
I know. That's right.
Isn't that right?
Right.
Why don't you do something? Why don't you look harder? But in reality, you know what? There's a market at work. And I'm going to just give one example of the market that is at work right now, and it is outrageous. You know who's buying up all the homes in suburban neighborhoods? Hedge funds. Yeah. They're not living there. They're just buying it, putting the squeeze on, making it impossible for people to get their own home. And, by the way, have a transient neighborhood where those barbecues you're talking about, Alexandria, you just can't put them together. Yeah. Right. And you know what? All of us in our own way is doing everything we can to try to make the best of ourselves, be the best that who we can be. But part of that for each of us is to help our neighbor and our kids be the best that they can be. That does require stability. It requires continuity. It requires commitment. It requires effort. But it also requires an affordable home, an affordable apartment. Right. And when we've got a market that now caters to folks who can show up and pay cash, and where hedge funds can come into communities and buy up every other house, so that folks who want to build that community, where they coach Little League, where they have a community barbecue, where they have school plays that they go to and are proud to see not just their own kid performing, but they're thrilled to see their neighbor's child getting along and performing as well. That's what we want, and that's at the heart of this legislation. We want community, and we know in order to get it, we have to have public policy that's going to address climate, that's going to address housing, that's going to build in a way that's resilient and sustainable and efficient. This is within our power to do. That's right. And that's why all of you organizing, advocating from your personal experience and the deep, deep commitment you have to love one another. That's what motivates us, and that's why we will sustain this effort and why we will succeed. Thank you all for everything that you do.
Thank you, Senator Welch. And next up, we'll have our Green New Deal champion,
Yes.
the OG, Senator Ed Markey.
Wow. Oh my God. Whoa. So this is such a great day. It's such a great day because, 5 years ago, when Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez and I introduced the Green New Deal, we said, well, the planet's dangerously warming, and we should do something about it. And then we said we should do something with wind and solar, all electric vehicles, battery storage technologies to solve the problem. And then we added 5 more pages, which has been driving Fox News crazy for 5 years. Because we said everyone has a right to a home. Everyone has a right to a good education. Everyone has a right to health care. Everyone has a right to live in dignity. And then we mentioned those people who are left behind. Black, brown, indigenous, poor people in our nation who were left behind in the first New Deal. They just weren't seen. And so that's really what this is all about. This is about a Green New Deal for public housing for everyone. It's about a Green New Deal for public education for everyone, so that everyone is able to maximize their God-given abilities, so that everyone is able to fully participate in the wealth of our nation. So this is just an incredible day because the Green New Deal unleashed a revolution, a revolution that's never going away until we complete this mission of long overdue justice for absolutely every person within our country. And the Green New Deal for public housing is going to deliver on all 3 counts: a revolution of young people, livable future for workers demanding jobs with dignity, and communities demanding justice for everyone. So we're facing a housing crisis in the country that has only gotten worse. Public housing has been left to fall into disrepair, and new public housing has been blocked by outdated federal and state laws, which have blocked it from being constructed. Rents are soaring, and so are the temperatures on our planet and in those communities especially. But the Green New Deal shows optimism. It shows opportunity. It's driving down emissions, retrofitting public housing, enabling us to build clean, new public housing designed by communities, not just for communities. We can fight climate change and our housing crisis at the very same time. And by using union labor, we can energize our local economies and support good jobs for everyone. We're doing this in Massachusetts at Franklin Park, but we just have to do it everywhere in our nation until we finish the job. Because a livable future means, above all, having a safe, clean, and healthy place to live. We don't have to worry about luxury housing. That's going to get built. We don't have to worry about wealthy people. That's not our job. They've got lobbyists all over the Hill. But we've got our activists not agonizing, but organizing. The public housing movement of our country. We thank you for everything that you're doing, and we're just going to keep going until we finish the job. Thank you all so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Senator Markey. Next, we have I would say, just one of the great gifts in terms of organizing, and one of our great policy minds in the country on housing in general, Diane Yentel, the president of the National Low Income Housing Coalition.
Well, I'm delighted to be here today with this incredible group of activists and this incredible group of congressional leaders, and to thank them on behalf of the National Low Income Housing Coalition and our members and partners from across the country for their bold leadership and for these ambitious proposals to not only help preserve America's essential public housing infrastructure, but to modernize these homes to 21st century green standards and to make sure that the residents who live there benefit from green job and training opportunities. It is past time that we combat the affordable housing crisis and climate change, both of which severely harm the lowest income and the most marginalized households. And through innovative, holistic, and bold visions and proposals like the Green New Deal for public housing, our nation can improve lives, ensure housing stability, and address climate change. Today, our housing and homelessness crisis is worsening. Across the nation, America's renters, the lowest income renters, are facing a severe shortage of homes that are affordable and available to them. Nationally, there's a shortage of 7.3 million apartments affordable and available to the lowest income renters. So another way of saying that same number is for every 10 of the lowest income families, there are fewer than 4 apartments that are affordable and available to them. But despite this critical need, Congress continues to chronically underfund solutions, including our essential public housing infrastructure. Congress has divested from public housing for decades, resulting in over $70 billion in unmet capital backlog needs. And as a result, our nation is losing 10 to 15,000 units of public housing every year to obsolescence or decay as other units fall into deep disrepair. So at a time when our nation is struggling to address the severe shortage of rental homes affordable to people with the lowest incomes, Congress must take every action to preserve the affordable homes that we have, especially public housing, and we should build more. The Green New Deal for public housing preserves this critical community asset for current residents and for future generations, and it helps prepare for and respond to the growing threat of climate change. So we're grateful for the leadership of the members of Congress that are here today, and we are beside you all the way to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diane. Next, we are going to have the president of AFSCME Local 647, Paul Wallace.
Paul. Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Paul Wallace. I'm currently the president of AFSCME Local 647 in Baltimore City House, where I represent about 160 members. And just to piggyback off of what they're saying, a lot of my members used to live in public housing, and some of them still live in public housing. I'm here to proudly announce that AFSCME proudly endorses the Green Act deal, the new Green Deal for Public Housing Act. We would like to thank Senator Sanders, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, and Representative Ramirez for leading this bill and all our allies that are here today. Nationwide, AFSCME has 1.4 million members. AFSCME in Maryland Council 3 has 25,000 members, working for the city, the state, and county and public housing authorities and environmental agencies. We have about 10,000 AFSCME members working in public housing, and 1,000 more working green jobs to promote a healthy environment. Excuse me. My title, really, I'm the president, but my title is maintenance technician. I work on these houses. I'm proud. At first, I didn't know what this job and what it meant, but I'm proud of the job that I do. I said, because I'm an example to the kids that are in these poverty places, that you can do better, and that I'm here to help you in any way that I can. Our job is to make sure that the houses are like we want to live in. And when I go into repair, that's what I do. That's what my team does. That's what we promote. we meet the residents, we talk to contractors and vendors, like we develop like a family. We become family to them, and, you know. So this Green New Deal is great. Uh, when I started, I had to tell you, I try to briefly say that I've been working for housing for 36 years. I currently come out of Potomac Job Corps here, and I went into maintenance there, and I've been there ever since, and I don't think I'm going nowhere no time soon, you know. But I really love this job. And because of the people, the kids, the seniors and things like that, they need our help. And there's a lot of people I see on the street that for whatever reason, they're not able to get into these homes because it's not available to them, or some kind of flag or some kind of petition that prevents them from getting there. Americans need this bill. It's increasing funding to repair, modernize, and green American public housing. Like I said, when I come here, I first started off in landscape, and every year we were putting grass down, we were beautifying the neighborhoods and things of that nature. That's almost done went to waste. When you go in there, the dirt is almost like concrete. This Green Act, they come outside, you know, they have to put down rubber playgrounds because there's no grass there. They fall on the ground, on the dirt, they can actually hurt themselves like they falling on concrete. So this Green Act is essential. This bill ensures families live in safe and decent, affordable housing, and is permanently there for our kids and our grandkids. Excuse me. Advocates for housing environment, labor unions, and workers' rights are united to support this bill. We push to enact it with residents, union members, managers, and our broader communities and elected officials. We also work with President Biden and HUD leaders. Housing, again, is a human right.
Right.
It's a human right. And it's been put on the back burner for a long time, and it's time that we change things. We thank you and have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Next, I'm very, very proud to introduce our next speaker, a NYCHA organizer herself, a resident of New York City Public Housing herself, Jasmine Sanchez.
All right.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jasmine Sanchez, and I'm a lifelong resident of public housing. I was born, raised, and still reside in Baruch Houses, which is the largest public housing development in Manhattan with over 10,000 people and 2,200 units. Public housing gave my family an opportunity and a stable home when they came from Puerto Rico. But my grandparents were forced out of 2 apartments when they arrived here due to urban renewal and the burning of their buildings. So had it not been for public housing, I don't know where my family would have been. Everyone deserves a stable home. Everyone deserves a home with clean water. Everyone deserves a home that is not falling apart. Everyone deserves to be invested in. And everyone deserves to live threat-free. Public housing residents face constant threats of privatization and conversions. After decades of disinvestment, we have seen our homes fall apart with repair backlogs that some folks feel will never get resolved. This sentiment of hopelessness is what prompts people to want to convert to RAD or PAC or privatize. No other solution is being presented when these conversations are happening with residents, and that is where we need to start. The Green New Deal for public housing is the alternative to privatization. The Green New Deal for public housing is the alternative for any social housing plan. And the Green New Deal for public housing is the alternative to the trust. Rep. AOC and Senator Sanders ensured in 2019 that this was a bottoms-up approach with purpose, intent, impact and coalition building with residents, organizations, and allies, and I thank you because a lot of folks don't do that, so I appreciate that. This bill not only invests in each unit, but it ensures that we receive energy-efficient appliances, that we have regulated cooling and heating systems, that we're able to generate our own power, but there is an investment in the actual tenant that no other piece of legislation has. The investment that they secure a job, a union job, which is one of the key tenements of public housing. So let's get back to that. This bill focuses on older adults and ensures that their quality of life doesn't suffer due to lack of resources as they age in place. And that our communities become a hub of resiliency because my community and communities that look like mine feel the ramification of climate change more harshly. Frontline communities in New York City that have historically borne the brunt of climate injustice are usually Black, brown, and other low-income communities. We see heat waves, poor air quality, and extreme weather and climate events ravage through poor communities without a second look. I live on the FDR Drive. I live by the Williamsburg Bridge. I live by the Con Edison plant. And I live by the busiest highways in Lower Manhattan. And this encompasses my development. We are boxed in. But I love public housing. My unit has only been occupied by my family. With the increasing rents, public housing is the most stable stock of housing in the nation. So why wouldn't we develop more, invest more, and protect the units that we own more? My household saw 2 college graduates. This is to Rep. Bowman's comment of stability and what you can become. 2 college graduates, my sister from NYU with a degree there, and I with a graduate degree from the CUNY School of Labor and Urban Studies. You already know, right? 3 generations have lived in my unit. This is not an isolated scenario. I have witnessed this throughout my travels speaking to residents nationwide. The first time this bill was introduced in 2019 and every year after that, because I truly believe that this bill is the only way public housing will get what they truly deserve. And I'll leave you with this. 2 of my fondest memories was when Papi, who is my grandfather, took myself and a neighbor's child downstairs in the middle of a snowstorm to play in the snow, creating snowballs, snowmans. I had a pink ski scoop. Never went skiing. I don't know why I owned one. And my friend had a red, white, and blue one, but we got there and we were making snow angels. Another memory I have, and it's the fondest one, me and the kids from the block running around on the lawn trying to capture lightning bugs, right? And for me, this is important to say because these social networks are part of the fabric of public housing that create the life-changing opportunities to its residents to engage and build long-lasting, tight-knit communities. The way we preserve our communities and social networks is by having a true investment in public housing so that people don't have to move, and individuals that live there so that they don't have to get priced out, and ensuring that our communities and developments become resilient so that in times of crisis, we are prepared. I love public housing, so let's pass a Green New Deal for public housing.
Next up, we have Shaia Kato, tenant at Reed Houses.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shaia. I am I'm so nervous. Don't mind me. I am a resident of New York City housing for almost 40 years. Throughout my years of living in New York City housing, the conditions has been bad. We are often afraid to speak up because we are afraid to lose our apartments if we do speak up. I have a 16-year-old, soon-to-be high school graduate, young man living in these conditions every day, as far as no heat, waking up having 4 or 5 blankets, trying to get warm for school the next day. That's not good. Waking up with rodents, crawling in the area where you have to make a meal that you're afraid to eat, but you had no other choice. It's not right. We need these funds for us as a whole, for all races, not just African Americans. We need these funds to raise our children. We need these funds to get better jobs. We're afraid to get better jobs because the rent is going to go up higher. So we live poorly, which is not fair. In our community, I live downtown Brooklyn. They are building high rises, higher than where we live, and not give us the opportunity that they have. which is pools, which is security, because we don't live safely in our community. Every day you wake up is a new day, but it's not a change. I pay a light bill, which is beyond what I make during a month. 2, have heat from portable heaters. What can I do? I want to stay warm. We fought for years asking, when you're going to fix the boilers? We don't have the funds to fix it. So now we have the funds to fix it, let's fix it. It's not only in Brooklyn, New York, it's all over the US that we live this way. And we are afraid. So with you guys today, hearing us out and hearing our stories, we ask you for help and we say thank you from our bottom of our hearts because we need it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shaia. Next, we have Demario Cooper, the co-executive director for the Center of Popular Democracy.
How you all doing? I don't know if these mics are going to pick me up from all the way up here, but my name is Demario Cooper. I'm from Akron, Ohio. I'm from a place in Akron, Ohio called The Bottom. And The Bottom was the bottom of a hill, but it was also the bottom of the economic system, and it was the projects. We grew up there. But what that place allowed was for us to have relationships with our family. It allowed us to be able to grow. My sister and I, my mom was a single parent. She used that space and that stability to build our life. She eventually got a better job, and yes, the cliff caught her, and we struggled after she got that better job. But she was able to eventually move us into a house where we had a home. And my mom, she died at 51 years old, trying to jump a class level in this country. My sister and I are her legacy. And currently I'm the co-executive director of the Center for Popular Democracy. And what the Center for Popular Democracy is a group of 51 affiliated organizations across this country that are power building organizations, real people, actual people who have the audacity to believe that we belong here. We belong wherever we are. In this campaign, I want to thank you, Senator, because you are actually embodying the values and beliefs and principles and hope of people like my mother, of people who believe that they have a right to be here. When we're talking about green social housing, we're not just talking about housing. It's a great issue. It's a good campaign. But what we're actually talking about is real people's lives, people's ability to raise their children in safe environments. Think about yourself. Think about your own life. If you did not have a stable environment to be raised in, what are the conditions under which you become? See, our opponents, they use this thing, they create stuff like the Fair Cloth Act, right? They do that. They defund our things that help us. And then they point to those things and say, look how they're not working. That's not working, right? That's what they do. But we're not confused. We're not confused. We're not confused anymore. People put you in office because they weren't confused. People supported Senator Sanders because they weren't confused. If we're in a society where people are starting to wake up, right? Like we're in another awakening right now. We're in another awakening right now. People have been through too much. They are tired. We are tired. Enough is enough. We all know that it's impossible for you to think that a government in this day and age cannot create housing for everyone. It is ridiculous to believe that more people are homeless today than they were 20 years ago. That's crazy. That's crazy. And then instead of fixing the problem, we have legislators trying to criminalize people who are stuck without housing. And they want us to pretend. They want us to pretend like people who don't have houses, it's their fault. I know people who don't have houses who work. They want you to believe that everyone who doesn't have a home is lazy. Is they don't care. That's what they want us to believe. But we know people who don't have homes who are working. If we're going to become the society that we actually can be, it's interesting. I'm sorry, because yesterday we were talking about the 2025 plan, And I'm just like, these people actually think that this is the right way forward. They actually believe, our opponents actually believe that people should not have houses. The Center for Popular Democracy and our affiliate organizations, we believe that the power is with the people. And that there are enough people who believe that we should have a future where everyone has the ability to thrive, where everyone should have a home, where everyone should have a good job. And this opportunity right now does both of those things. It doesn't only create a home where everyone can live that's low emissions, but it also creates jobs for millions of people. If you know someone, where I come from, people, the narrative to tell people that these people are not like you, that people don't think like you, that if you were put in those same conditions, that you would make different choices. I'm here to tell you that you probably wouldn't. You probably wouldn't make different choices than them. But if we give folks opportunity, if we create legislation like the senators are creating, and then we fight as people who have to deal with the conditions of not fighting, if we don't fight, then we can create a future where we all can thrive.
That's right.
That's what we're fighting for. We're fighting even for our enemies to be able to thrive. Yep. We're fighting for the people who don't believe in us, don't believe we should have houses and jobs. We want them to thrive, because the only way we're going to have a future together is if we all work together. The only way that we are going to stay on this planet, the only way we're going to be on this planet with health and have generations and generations of human beings coming is if we work right now to build the power necessary to force the folks in that building to do the things that help us thrive.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
There we go.
Thank you so much.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Housing is a human right.
Fight, fight, fight.
Thank you so much, Demario. And to bring us home, we're going to have Israel Izzy Cuevas, the service coordinator for the Green City Force.
Thank you. I am Israel Cuevas, NYCHA resident and service coordinator of Green City Force. I am also one of the 700 young adults who are a graduate of the program. Thank you. More importantly, when I am serving and I am working, I am leading and overseeing the training and development as well as service of the members at an urban ag eco hub in Mariners Harbor, Staten Island, New York. And when I think of the Green New Deal, I think of a new door of opportunities for young adults such as myself, graduates, and anyone who really wants to make a difference and change their lives and change the lives of others in public housing, to be able to take the skills, take whatever it is that they are equipped with, and be able to really pioneer a new era of change, of retrofits, and overall improvement of our public housing areas. I myself grew up in public housing, and I've dealt with bad air quality, I've dealt with not having heat, I've dealt with sometimes even not having power. With the new Green Deal, we'll be able to have young adults, anyone who is equipped and certified and willing to serve, to be able to come into these spaces and improve the places that they're living in. By other community members witnessing this, they can then learn and ask questions about what it is that we're doing. Moving forward, this could create a Love Where You Live initiative, and other community members can then step in, and now the community is being built and reformed by the community for the community. I myself served 2 AmeriCorps terms at this site in Staten Island, Mariners Harbor, Staten Island. And being able to be a witness to all of the different things that are occurring, all the different injustices, all the different lack of resources that these communities were having, was a real eye-opener. And being able to serve alongside my team, the Green City Force staff, being able to give produce for no extra charge, just making sure that people bring in their food scraps, having the community once again participate in our endeavors to be able to attack food justice. And since we use those scraps to then use it to make compost, our food that we're growing is by the community, for the community. I want to leave you guys with this. I challenge everyone who's here today, activists, leaders, everyone, to take your next step in your part and your role in making this new Green Deal equitable, sustainable, and comfortable for all public housing residents. Thank you for this opportunity. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Being here a second, I want to speak a little bit as to why everybody here is important. But I want to speak a little bit about the importance and significance of Israel being here today. Because what we've been able to propose in all of this is, I think a lot of what you represent is the vision of all Green New Deal policy coming together. Because a couple years ago, we introduced legislation to create and establish a civilian climate corps so that young people could learn and develop the skills and jobs in caring for their communities. And when we pair that with the Green New Deal for public housing, we create a pipeline of talent in order to invest in our communities. That climate corps turns into a union job, turns into new landscaping for our public housing. And what Israel does with the Green City Force, because we just signed in and we just won an American Climate Corps last year, and we will expand it, but we've been able to already move ahead on the city level and build the NYCHA Climate Corps, the Public Housing Climate Corps. And what Israel does is that he helps public housing residents compost their food. He helps them grow. He helps them grow garden beds and teach folks how to grow their own food, to lower their own grocery costs. And eventually, we want to help people learn how to install solar panels on public housing, and making sure that they don't have to rely on a boiler that's going to get flooded and turned out, but that we can get that energy from the sun. So thank you so much, Israel, for your leadership and your service to our country. With that, we'll open up for a brief Q&A, and then we'll head out for our day. Yes?
Two things. One, what would the impact, I know there's the $40 billion backlog in New York for NYCHA, what would the impact in your view be on New York City specifically with this legislation? And then two, obviously Biden made housing part of his State of the Union pitch. What do you make of what he proposed, and where does that fit in here?
Of course. So on the New York front of things, this legislation was very much, of course, as all representatives do, very much inspired by home, inspired by the opportunities that we have at home, and inspired by the struggles that we have at home in public housing. Green New Deal for public housing will create tens of thousands of jobs in New York City alone. Those jobs would be union. Those jobs would go to NYCHA residents, and we would really start to transition away from year after year of dealing with broken boilers and no heat, and then replacing the same old systems that break again, to transitioning to new systems, that particularly new energy systems, transitioning from our boilers to solar, transitioning from gas to electric, transitioning our appliances from